I'll show you how it's done. Shazam!
This is a podcast, our very first podcast, guys. Welcome to our channel here in Undeveloped, and we usually do, of course, reactions and reviews, but we've done podcasts before, just like very loosely, but we wanted to be more consistent this time because this is what we really like to do. We like to talk about stuff, you know what I mean? Like watching stuff is cool, but like watching it on a chair and light shining your face, not that big of a TV, just like, you know, my ADD kicks in, and sometimes I could just like get narcoleptic, and especially if I like had a full day already and ate this late, this makes it a lot worse. Yeah, but certain movies, you know, catch my attention, like how when we watched
like Schindler's List,
that was like one movie that, you know, it was like a 3 hour and something movie, and it was late. It just kept me stimulated. So it's like a stimulation thing. It's like an ADHD thing, you know. But like talking, like I like to get my knowledge out because we're filmmakers, we work in the industry, so it's like we love talking about stuff. So like I watch stuff in my own time. So it's like, and I have a lot of ideas as a filmmaker, as a fan of film. Same with him, you know. Yeah. So yeah, we have a lot of, and it's something we've been going back and forth for years. We've been talking about, not back and forth, we have similar opinions on this, but like we've been talking about this. This has been a separate conversation for many, many years. So
it's something that we've been all watching happen right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, even if you haven't been noticing, because not most of you are actual film like aficionados, like film, like cinephiles.
Not everyone is.
You're not maybe huge up in the industry unless you're in the industry or unless you really pay attention. Most people don't. Like some of my friends, you know, just casual watchers. They just go to they're more focused on other things, and the movies to them are just a casual thing. Yeah, but movies are my life. So I grew up loving films and shows and stuff. So you know, this is what I love to do. I care about this community. I care about this industry. I want to see it flourish, and the last few years, ever since the late 2010s to like, actually the last like 15, 20 years has been like this, but like it's really been happening since like COVID.
Yeah, COVID
is before COVID. Like
COVID is when we finally see the most exaggerated decline in the movie business. Really.
Yeah. So yeah, is Hollywood dead? Quite. I mean, it's getting there. You know what I mean? Like, it's hope. Maybe, and we need some like real like. We need some big changes. We need
definitely,
and we are trying new things that we like. Is a big increase in indies, and that's because Hollywood is failing. So maybe not the entire culture of movies are failing, but Hollywood is. Yeah, you know what I mean.
And honestly, we've seen this many times before in the past. Like Hollywood has failed before, and the indies have always rose up to come up. Like we saw, we're in that now. We saw in the '60s, like '60s, the late '90s, and now we're just seeing it here again in the early 2020s.
We are here. And I literally had a conversation with a friend from work, and he's his head's kind of buried in the sand on this for sure. Because you know he's truly a cinephile, so he doesn't look at it that way. You know. He looks at success as just success. Like we was talking about, like Dune. Like Dune, for example, Dune has everything going for it. Big A-list actors in his movies, from Zendaya to Javier Bardem to Timothy Chalamet, you know, and Austin Butler and so on and so forth. Stellan Skarsgård. Like I mean, have everyone.
Yeah, it's an all-star cast.
All-star cast. Huge director with Denis Villeneuve. Excellent reviews. Excellent Rotten Tomatoes score.
Big
viral marketing campaign.
Yes,
with the cat going through the
worms,
the worm bucket, and the cat going through the blankets, acting like the worm. You know what I mean? And the music, and
all the Stilgar memes.
Yeah, So it's like, it has everything going for it. And Barbie and Oppenheimer had that going for them, and they really saw the fruits of their success.
Yeah, they both hit over $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean Oppenheimer is close to $1 billion.
Okay,
like maybe like I think like 970.
Okay,
they're close though.
It rounds up.
Barbie's too. Like, what was that? Like so.
And Dune 2 did not come nearly that high.
No, 720. Yeah. I was like that's good.
But you would expect a lot more out of that.
But yeah, I expect a whole lot more. You know what I mean? Like that movie should have won. That movie should at least hit 850. For the very least, it really should have been a $1 billion movie the way it was coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd expect it to
everything going for it. And back in 2010s, it would have. Like Disney had it on lock in the 2010s. Like you'll see if you go to like the highest grossing films of like the 2010s.
It's all Disney stuff. It's all
Disney,
especially the Marvel stuff, especially.
Yeah, it's like you see like 5 movies hit over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Now you may get 1 or 2 at best, and movies that you think are short things like most of the MCU stuff, because MCU has took over the 2010s because that's where most of the $1 billion movies come from, and Disney making remakes.
Yeah. But MCU remakes, and I think The Force Awakens made a whole bunch too.
So all pretty mostly Disney properties.
Yes.
You know what I mean? All those made bunch of money. You know what I mean? Like, so like we see like 5 films in 1 year make over $1 billion. Now we're looking to get 1. You know what I'm saying? And movies that we think like MCU films, Star Wars films, we think they're gonna do good, and they don't.
No.
Because this is where we're getting at. Because Disney has a propensity of like we got into the habit through the MCU to like just going through IP, like just exploiting as much IP as you can.
Yeah.
To the point of remaking their classics.
It's not enough to be a movie anymore. It's to be a big expanded universe.
Yeah. Why do we need a Lion King remake? Why?
We don't. We fucking don't.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so they just keep exploiting all their IP to make a bunch of money. The true IP should be in the filmmaking. It should be in the storytelling. It shouldn't be in like just like famous characters. Because what Hollywood's really stupid. It is gonna keep going. It doesn't keep ringing that same bell.
We're just gonna keep seeing the same movies over and over again if that's the case. And instead of like, this person, instead of Tom Hanks having iconic performances for his Gump, we're going to have X actor here playing Joker for the 80,000th time, you know?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so like, that's another thing we get into, like, cause of decline. Nowadays, we don't really have movie stars anymore. We have, like...
We just have really successful actors, not quite on stardom.
Exactly. We have A-listers, stuff, celebrities, but we don't have movie stars anymore. Like, don't get it twisted. Timothée Chalamet is not a movie star.
No,
Timothée Chalamet
is a very successful actor.
Timothée Chalamet, Wonka is an IP, famous movie based off a famous book.
Yeah, just like Dune is also.
It's like Dune is. So it's like, so you know, what I mean, you have if he wasn't in that movie, it'll still do the same.
Yeah.
So a movie star, by definition, at least why I see it, is you're showing profitability by you being the center of focus in the movie. Like Tom Cruise in his golden era, like once you get like the poster, the cover poster of the movie, and they use your name as like Tom Cruise in, or Tom Hanks in, or Denzel Washington in, Will Smith in, whatever movie. That's how you know your movie star, when you are the selling point, where you're the one. And I'm not big on just celebrating movie stars, because movie stars, like, to me, it takes away from like other actors shining, because now you're seeing the same actors in same roles. They get typecasted, so it's you know what I mean. Classic Hollywood was big on it.
It's not perfect either.
Classic Hollywood was like they engineer like a new celebrity a new movie star every year, give them certain mannerisms to fit certain molds. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's about expression, it's about trying different things. It's not about boxing yourself in. But studios work in a way where they're just trying to weaponize everything, use anything to trying to pander, because they just care about their bottom line instead of actually trying to keep the art itself. Even so, it still is useful because at least it'll give the opportunity to make different movies if an actor's the selling point. If it's no longer IP, at least if the actors are the IP, then you could just tell different stories around them.
Yeah.
But even though they will take it as like, okay, we're gonna give Tom Cruise this kind of storyline where he's the hero, this and that, or Dwayne The Rock, he make him the superstar. We put him in this way, so in a way there is IP in a way, because they're telling you a familiar story.
Yeah, well, it is, because just like how a story is an intellectual property, you could say the same about brand. And nowadays, a lot of the more bigger actors are more brands than actors. Like when you see The Rock, you're seeing the same movie you've ever seen The Rock in.
Tequila.
Yeah, like, because The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and other actors like them, they're always the same characters all the time.
Pretty much all the time.
You're not seeing them. They're not cast because they're actors. They're cast because they're brands. They're recognized brands, and you know you're getting with them all the time. Yeah.
But at least when you have movie stars, true movie stars, at least you get to at least tell somewhat original storytelling, at least original ideas, I guess, to a certain degree, even though it follows similar like story plots or beat plots of other stuff. It is still better. And in the 90s eras, you really get dynamic stories, because like you have people like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise doing like dynamic different movies, you know, that tells movies different, like that was like the era of like really like making indie movies, and they're hitting like blockbuster or like Hollywood numbers.
The 90s did that a lot.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like that was what that is the pinnacle of the industry. Because you still have your big IPs, your big superhero, your big sci-fi, your big actors making a ton of money, but then you have these like dramas, these serious movies, these experimental movies that for like you're making for like 30, 40, 50 million.
And a lot of them are also very profitable too.
Exactly. Like Tom Hanks would killing off that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like today, Schindler's List probably wouldn't make that kind of money.
No.
Saving Private Ryan wouldn't make that kind of money. Forrest Gump wouldn't make that kind of money.
Definitely
Castaway.
not, yeah.
Who? You know what? You know, if you're a movie star when you could be the only person in the movie and it makes $400-something million.
Yeah.
You think you could put Timothée Chalamet or any Tom Holland, any of the big stars these days, Ryan Gosling in a Castaway like movie, and it will make $400 million? Fuck no.
No.
You could have that movie. You could have a 90% review and a marketing campaign. It's still would have made that kind of money.
Yeah.
It may even lose money.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Because no actor here is big enough to where they're enough to sustain a movie by themselves. It's always like multiple big actors or a whole big cast of actors. Like, for example, when we saw Bones and All, I think that was 2022 when we saw that movie.
It was good.
It was a good movie, and Timothée Chalamet was good in it, but he was the only star in that movie. And it didn't do well because he was the only star in that movie.
Yeah, and that wasn't that because he's just not enough. Because
that's my point.
Because the idea is no real backing of it, and Timothée Chalamet is just as big as he is. He's not. No one gives a shit about the movie star anymore. So he's not. So because we don't give a shit, and wouldn't watch a movie that you're in just because you're in it. You're not a movie star anymore. Like it's the idea. Being a movie star is the idea that I can star whatever I want, and because of my star power, people would want to watch my movie.
Like growing up, we saw people go to movie theaters to see Tom Cruise and Will Smith and all sorts of actors.
But now they come to see a Star Wars movie. They come to see we want to see more Jedi. We want to see the next Captain America. We want to see this and that. And that's cool. But then they're not even doing good with those because like look how much MCU movies failed. From the Marvels to Ant-Man, all these movies, they all flopped.
Yeah, there's been a whole bunch of flops. Sure, Deadpool and Wolverine's doing good, but that's about it.
Those guys.
Yeah, DC is one big spiral of pain, man. Yeah. Hopefully James Gunn can pick it up, but that's up in the air still. We don't know if he's going to actually do Legacy Rare or not. For sure.
Yeah, but going back to like the mid-budget kind of movies, as a video that I wanted to see, that I also want to rewatch, and maybe we could discuss this because Matt Damon also shares some opinions too. He's like, I'm explaining why like they don't make movies like they used to, and it's a lot, and it has a lot to do with like. Because they know more movie stars, they're not taking chances. Hollywood are not taking risks. So they're not doing the $30, $40 million movies. They're just going right to streaming. And that's a whole nother can of worms because streaming played a big part into the destruction of the industry.
Because the way streaming is very, very convenient way to watch movies. Yep. And when people are giving a convenient option, they'll always go for the option that's most convenient to them. So while you might prefer to watch a movie in the theater, you're not going to go to the extra mile like, I have to get up, I have to get there on time. But when I'm streaming, I decide to lay down on the couch, just press play, and whenever I want, the movie's playing on my terms. It's more convenient. It's altering the way people view movies, people viewing the experience of watching movies. And as a result of this, all the movies are going direct to streaming. Those are basically being perceived the same way we perceived direct-to-DVD movies back in the day.
Yeah. These are just higher budget straight-to-DVD movies.
Yeah.
And you're using like real stars to do it, so that's just going to devalue the star power that is a Matt Damon, that is a Mark Wahlberg, that is a Kevin Hart, because now I could just catch them at the convenience of the streaming. So I need to see them in the movies for.
Yeah.
The whole thing, you want to get people with their asses to go out and make a whole event of it. Go out, go with your friends, a date. Go all the way out, take a car or take a bus or train. Go out to the theater, make it a date night, make it a hangout night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you go on a big screen and you watch a movie, you spend your money, you go there directly. You don't release Wonder Woman or Matrix 4 streaming just because COVID is going to release movies out. No, that's no. So Matt Damon go hunting. Never. That probably would have lost money.
Nowadays it would have.
With two newbies with a decent director-ish and Robin Williams.
No, it wouldn't have.
Hell no.
On the couch on a Friday night, going through the streaming services, cycling through the movies and thinking to themselves, they're not making movies for me anymore. As somebody who's been intimately involved in movie making for 30 years, what are the macro Hollywood conditions behind that sentiment?
Well, so what happened was the DVD was a huge part of our business, of our revenue stream. And technology has just made that obsolete. And so the movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release, and 6 months later you'd get a whole nother chunk. It would be like reopening the movie almost. And when that went away, that changed the type of movies that we could make. I did this movie Behind the Candelabra, and I talked to a studio executive who explained it was a $25 million movie. I would have to put that much into print and advertising, right, to market it, what we call P&A. So I'd have to put that in P&A. So now I'm in $50 million.
So, quick question: where they break down movies, like you'll see, like if a movie makes movies a production budget $25 million, and you make about $50 million, you're probably losing money. Because you think about this, you made more than your production budget, but that's not. He just said P&A, prints and advertising. That's like paying for room and board for your actors and crew members to go out and promote the movie across the world. TV spots, creating trailers, ad space for the trailers on internet, on social media sites, TV, bus benches, billboards, all over the world. You know what I mean? That's
your various different movie posters and the artists that make them. Lots of stuff. Like, for example, Deadpool Wolverine has a massive marketing campaign right now. I'm sure anyone watching this as the video is new is going to be overly familiar, or at least seeing one or two posters out there somewhere, if not the whole big thing that all the actors are doing and everything.
Like, look at The Mummy with Tom Cruise. Like, that made like 400. That made close to like 450 over like $190 million budget, but they still lost money.
Yeah.
Because their marketing budget was insane. Because they were trying to jumpstart a whole universe.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened to them.
Like they put like their budget was actually is usually the rule of thumb is that the P&A budget will be like half the production budget.
Usually, yes.
But it can go up to almost 100, 150. But this time they doubled it. It was more than the actual budget. It was like $300 million.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. And we're not even talking about distribution. Usually distribution, what I heard, is that they'll take 33% off the top. So when you distribute it, distribution is like distributing it to like the thousands of screens across the world to view it, and also for the time it's in the theater. That's all money. So they take like a third of your revenues, or sometimes you're paying them a fee up front. So that's extra money on top of that. So you're paying for print and advertising and distribution, or you're getting a third taken off of your profits.
Yes.
So that 50, take 30% off that was probably like in your 30s. You know what I mean? Plus the 20, you lost money.
You did.
That's why if you had budget's like $25 million, you probably need to make close to 180 to really see some profit.
To split everything I get with the exhibitor, right, the people who own the movie theaters. So I would have to make $100 million.
Yep.
Before I got into profit. And
you literally said what I just said.
Yeah, he did.
And I forgot this whole thing. That's just common sense.
Yeah.
P&A, so I'd have to put that in P&A. So now I'm in $50 million. I have to split everything I get with the exhibitor, right, the people who own the movie theaters. So
the
I would have to make
AMC's, your Regals, your United Artists, etc. Regal thing, but still
$100 million.
Alamos.
Before I got into profit.
I forgot this video. So I said common sense. I said 100 million. Literally just me and you just like this, Matt. Because I forgot about this clip. I was this clip mad long. You know what I mean? Literally, it's just common sense because I know how budgets work.
Yeah,
25 million. I figured that would be like the magic number for you to get into profitability. Because I said P&A usually double. In this case, it's probably double because when it's low budget, you still need more money to promote.
Yeah.
So you're in 20, 30 million, then you're in 50.
Yeah. So
distribution takes a third, like 33% usually, or sometimes or if you want to do it that way, you pay them all off top. Yeah, but they're taking a cut of the ticket sales.
They definitely are, yeah.
So to get any level of profitability, you need to make $100 million so you can pay off your distributors and sell a little something left on the side to get your money back plus some.
And the idea of making $100 million on a story about like this love affair between these two people. Yeah, I love everyone in the movie, but that's suddenly a massive gamble in a way that it wasn't in the 1990s when they were making all those kind of movies, the kind of movies that I loved and the kind of movies that were
Talented Mr. Ripley.
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting. Two movies that made him who he is. That made him who he is. Made him a star. Brought him into Born Ultimatum, Born Identity.
Yeah. As he said, back then they could rely on DVD sales to pick up the slack, but now they don't really have that.
But they were making money anyways. Both we made a lot of money.
True. They did. They probably didn't need the DVD sales, but the DVD sales certainly helped. And for a lot of movies, they probably only made money as a result of DVD sales.
Because streaming, you make it like some like residuals because licensing, so they have to buy it from you.
Yes.
But now that all these other companies have released their own streaming services, now the whole block is filled with streaming services. So if Warner Brothers already own the movie and they put it on a streaming platform, what residual are you getting? Because they already own the movie. So I'm paying you to stream the movie that's under our studio on our platform. But Netflix, Amazon, not part of it. So we have to get the rights to this movie. We're already on the rights to these movies and the characters.
It's interesting how such an off-the-cuff remark can ignite such strong reactions across the board. The media love to throw out these type of headlines, and let's not pretend, YouTubers love to create videos with titles like this because it's instantly divisive. It either resonates with you or it doesn't. And because it's such a broad statement, it allows for people to smuggle in their favorite, passionately argue about that in the comment section instead. Depending on your preference, it's either movie expert demonstrates his expertise by saying something true, or movie expert demonstrates he's now out of touch by saying something false. Now,
he's saying nothing false yet.
So is Tarantino right? Are we experiencing the worst era of movies? You know your own answer, but for me, that emotionally resonates as true. Because what I value most in cinema is originality. I want new stories, new twists, new auteurs, new movie stars creating iconic roles. That way our generation can say, look, here are the movies that say something about the world and who we were at this point in time. So my bias is clear. I even made a video about why I thought the 90s was the golden era for original movies. Like many of you, I have treasured memories of physically going to the movie theater and seeing something totally new. It could have been a drama, a thriller, a blockbuster, a romantic comedy, an animation, a horror movie, or something weird and experimental. And seeing such a wide range of stories being told in different ways made me fall in love with movies, because they seemed like they were a beacon of creativity.
I have to see the films again.
Anything could be explored. But maybe this was just an innocent byproduct of the times, as once the internet came along, the game changed. Rather than movies being a place for free expression that could explore important topics for us, now we all get the opportunity to throw in our 2 cents on social media.
That's very true.
Just feeling a certain way about a particular topic is no longer enough. Now we want to engage with it directly, by joining a never-ending collective game of tug-of-war on every single issue. And because every action has a reaction, to avoid this social media backlash, modern movies feel neutered and stripped of their edginess or personality.
This whole international audience, the more, the simpler the story, the more that it can kind of play, the less language matters, and so the more kind of broad appeal and the more it can play in all over the world.
So nowadays the few movies that do make it to the cinema need to have such broad international appeal to even get greenlit, that they wind up generic good versus bad stories that anyone can understand. And while this could have been an interesting opportunity for new writers and directors to create brand new original blockbuster ideas, lots of attempts at original stories bombed at the box office. So it's safer to just go with what's tried and true. Superheroes with a built-in audience that will embrace them just recasting Spider-Man for the 17th time, or for a novelty factor, place 2 superheroes from different stories on screen together. And if they run out of ideas entirely, screw it, just throw them all on screen at the same time. It used to be that some of the highest grossing movies of the year weren't blockbusters. If you look at the worldwide box office in 1999, the top 10 highest grossing movies included originals like The Sixth Sense, Notting Hill, American Beauty, The Green Mile, and The Blair Witch Project. Fast forward to 2022, and the top 10 highest grossing...
4 out of 5 of those movies would have made dick these days. No. Dick! They will make dick 0. And Julia Roberts could still be a huge star, but put her in that movie now, with her being the same star level, still would make dick.
Comic books or even video games, and that's before Avatar even comes out.
Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was number 10. Okay,
over the past 20 years, fewer and fewer of the highest-grossing movies are original.
Sonic's been out
now you may
decades.
think, why fetishize originality so much? What difference does it really make, whether a story's been told before or not?
It
doesn't necessarily say anything about it.
That's how it propels cinema. How you think those eras got big? Because they did original movies.
Yep.
Out its quality.
We're doing nothing special. We're doing nothing special. We're just remaking old shit. We're just rehashing old shit. It's almost like we completely ran out of ideas. We live in an unoriginal era.
By the industry's own standards, there's now a divide between award movies and movies that the general audience actually go and see. Back in 1999, 3 out of the top 5 original highest-grossing movies were nominated for multiple Oscars. So there was a crossover between what people actually watched and what was deemed to possess high creative quality. But that's not the case anymore. On top of that, without original movies being made and attracting an audience, then you'll inevitably run out of things to remake or reboot. Original movies are what emotionally attach us to new creative forces that can then be used to promote future projects,
last decade.
such as
so now
that's why it's successful.
He's doing it right because now Get Out's not. He made something original that made money. The artistry and the idea itself that shows that original movies is alive and well because he made such an original movie and people liked it and word of mouth spread that was good and people wanted to go and see it.
I'd argue the same thing. We could say the same thing with the first Cry Place movie. That was the original idea and people went to see it.
Exactly, and that made a bunch of money. So hey, you doofuses. Hey, you bozos. Maybe there's something there.
Writers, directors, and actors. Without Reservoir Dogs, we wouldn't have Tarantino. Without Mean Streets or Taxi Driver, we don't have Scorsese.
I want to watch Mean Streets. I haven't seen Mean Streets. That's the first collaboration you do with De Niro.
I never saw
Without
Mean
the
Streets
Blair Witch
either.
Project, we wouldn't have the found footage genre. Now, you may think that it's run its course or wasn't that good, but it's through this trial and error process that we find new ways of telling stories that audiences actively want to see. Other decades have left behind an iconic legacy. The 1970s had Star Wars, Jaws, The Godfather, The Exorcist,
Superman.
Halloween, Rocky, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It cemented the blossoming careers of George Lucas, Ridley Scott,
There's so much
Steven
shit that happened in the
Spielberg,
70s,
John
you can forget-
Carpenter,
you can forget
Sylvester
one.
Stallone, Frank. We're still making Jurassic World movies, Toy Story spin-offs, Creed movies based on Rocky movies, Halloween reboots and sequels, Star Wars movies and spin-offs of spin-offs, the Lion King remake, alongside every other live-action remake they're pumping out. So now when you go to the cinema, you don't wonder what they have in store for you. You very much know what you're getting, and are basically just stamping your ticket to go on the same theme park ride one more time.
That's what Scorsese
So when
said,
someone
theme
like
parks.
Tarantino says this is the worst era for movies, of course it resonates as true. That's just the
It's very
reality
true.
we live in, and anyone who even tries to argue against it is revealing themselves to be a complete and total idiot.
I don't say morons, but idiots suffice. Yeah, you are a moron. It's the truth. It's just the truth. So the fact that Paul doesn't get that without trying to explain is not calling him it, but I'm just saying though, the fact that you're not seeing it as like you gotta be joking.
Well, he just says he has an argument against it, so let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, let's see.
Now, if you agree with everything I said, then this is going to hurt your ears, and it will even sting me as it comes out of my own mouth. But it's important to acknowledge, back when you first fell in love with movies, you were probably coming of age, and as your brain developed into an adult, this happened to coincide with the deepening of your understanding of cinema. So the movies that spoke to you may have only resonated so strongly because they were literally the first time you ever felt those feelings or considered those concepts. For example, one of these rebellious characters likely resonates with you more than the others, depending on what your outlook was at the time that you saw it. Art is just as much about the viewer as the artist, as our own experiences guide our interpretation and the level of meaning we ascribe to it. This is why some stories resonate with us more than others, or why we don't really get certain movies until we mature further and have the life experience to inform our understanding. So we'll always have a soft spot for the excellent movies that were coming out at the same time that we were falling in love with cinema. Because as we learned more about what the craft of good storytelling involved, just like the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, we now begin to see it everywhere. Everyone wants to believe that they're living through uniquely innovative times. Imagine you were back in 1999, you'd just seen The Sixth Sense for the first time, and you thought, wow, what a twist. That was the best scary movie I've ever seen. There's no way M. Night Shyamalan could screw this up from here. And then someone older said, no, movies today aren't as good as they used to be. The twist in Hitchcock's Psycho was far superior. They don't make movies like that anymore. You'd probably think they're being overly nostalgic, and that those movies, sure, were great for the time they were made, but they're a bit dated now. So when we say
because it's been ripped off a trillion times to the point where now we're looking at that in different view because like, oh yeah, we've seen this already.
Well, fairness, even if they weren't, they would still be dated. That's not really what dated means.
Of movies ever made. We're essentially spitting in the face of the next generation of potential filmmakers and film fans
who
are falling in love with cinema in their
one
own
of my favorite
personal
episodes.
way.
That should have been Joey, shit like that.
Yeah, the Joey should have been more of that. Absolutely.
Now, the obvious response to that is yes, but that's because they're just feeding the corporate machine who are repackaging the same ideas again and again. Sure, but the point I'm making isn't about the art itself, it's about you and why you feel certain ways about certain things, and why this next generation will also feel a certain way too. So when you disrupt their discovery and enjoyment of something, of course they're going to disagree with you. To them, they feel as if there's great stuff getting made all the time, as they're resonating with it and learning from it in the same way you did. And the movies you adore, and this may sting, aren't as perfect as you feel they are. You may think that's what you love about them, but others see those imperfections as just imperfections. It's also completely cheating to cherry pick the best movies from the past and compare them to an average movie coming out today.
It
also takes time
cheating,
for a movie to build up a legacy. For instance, The Shawshank Redemption and Fight Club were both financial flops.
Good thing about being in a bad era of Hollywood cinema is the ones that don't conform, the ones that stand out from the pack. And those
are bigger.
Yeah, and those movies that stand out from the pack, I literally call them archives classics.
Even Tarantino acknowledges that there are great movies being made in this current era. The problem is that they're often drowned out by blockbusters at the box office and surrounded by so many bad or average movies on streaming services. But by its very nature, when we look back at an era of movies, we only really watch or remember the cream of the crop that had the most cultural impact. We don't watch the forgotten drama that didn't get nominated for any awards, or the subpar sci-fi movie that flopped at the box office.
Oh shit, that's Matt LeBlanc?
Let's take some of the better movies from the past 10
he's
years
with some good
that
company.
aren't superhero movies,
That's
and
probably how
see
he
if
got
they
everyone
look like
on
they
the
could
show.
stand the test of time
it was on
for
Friends
their own
first.
unique qualities.
That's why
Parasite,
Zucker
The
didn't
Wolf of Wall
pick
Street,
off.
The Revenant, Whiplash, Her, Boyhood. In thriller, we have Gone Girl, Nightcrawler. In sci-fi, we have Nolan's Tenet and Interstellar, as well as Ex Machina.
I'm not saying there aren't not good movies coming out here. I'm not putting any Nolan films in it because he doesn't count. He's literally like one of the only few auteurs left.
Yeah, I wouldn't count him specifically, but even then, that's like only 2 movies out of this list.
Yeah, he has more, but yeah.
Horror, we have Jordan Peele's Get Out, as well as
Parasite is not the U.S. That's not Parasite's not Hollywood. That is a different. That is a different market.
Yeah, that's made outside the Hollywood market.
Yeah.
That's a Korean movie.
We're making better movies than this right now.
Ari Aster's Midsummer and Hereditary. There are many more, but as
Yeah,
you can
that's
see,
your joint right
when
there,
you just focus
Midsommar.
on the more
Yeah,
unique
that's a good one.
movies of
I've seen
any
Midsommar,
decade,
no Hereditary.
then it can look quite strong.
They're pretty good.
It's very hard to compare new movies with classics that have decades of cultural commentary backing them up. After you've heard
Wicker
one
Man
is the
sucked, right?
best so many times,
No, that's
it
the
builds
remake
up
of
a
Wicker Man
certain
that sucked.
expectation that's impossible to overcome. But movies have changed, and let's be honest, the visual effects, sound design, and cinematography have vastly improved. If Hereditary came out back in the 70s, who's to say it wouldn't be just as, if not more famous, than The Exorcist? We just don't really know what this current era looks like until it's long past. Now you may look at this list and just think, meh, this only further proves my point, they really don't make great movies like they used to.
No,
Back then
most
was
movies are pretty good.
undeniably the best time for
I
quality
would put 10 on
content
there, but
being made.
I would put the,
But
I
now
would
it's
put the
how you-
Revenant on there. The Revenant's not that good.
I like The Revenant, but I mean, it didn't make a lot of money, and it won Leo's first Oscar. Whiplash should deserve it for sure. Her as well. Parasite definitely. Well, Wall Street, yeah. Even though that's made by a classic era some filmmaker,
Yeah,
but
and
sure.
there are certainly other movies that we could definitely add on to this pile that has come since then.
Gone Girl personally, like because I hate manipulative people, but sure. Nightcrawler, I didn't watch that. Something you probably should react to. I heard it was good.
It is a good movie, yeah.
Ex Machina, I heard was a good movie.
Yeah, that was good.
But that didn't make much money from that. When I'm talking, I remember.
It was fairly profitable. I mean, it's profitable for what the budget was.
Okay, then sure. Tenet didn't make Tenet definitely shouldn't be on it. Because Tenet was decent. Well, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And on top of it, it didn't make a lot of money at all.
I wasn't crazy about Tenet as a movie.
So
but
Tenet-
yeah.
so Tenet
it
is
would
not
have made
even-
a lot
so
more if
Tenet-
it wasn't for COVID.
Fair, but it didn't. So Tenet's not a good example.
It isn't. Tenet's like there's honestly a lot better examples. Like I don't know when this video was made, so maybe it couldn't have listed some of the more modern movies that we've been covering. Like, but I'm pretty sure Talk to Me made a decent amount of money, and that was a good movie.
Yeah,
I put that on here.
that was a sleeper hit.
React to this statement. This is the worst era of television ever. Now, if you have any semblance of taste, you likely react negatively to that opinion, potentially even recoiling in horror, as it's simply not true. The entertainment landscape changed because of the internet. Once you no longer needed to go to the cinema because you had a home entertainment system with round-the-clock access to everything, your habits were going to change, and thus the movie business
That's the
was
problem
going to have
right
to
there.
change too. Instead of going to see an excellent 2-hour drama in the cinema every few months, you're just going to have to settle for an excellent 10-hour drama on television several times a year. Now don't get me wrong, there's still so much television being produced that the majority of it is mediocre. But on average, we all intuitively feel that TV's baseline standards are only getting higher year after year. This proves that filmmakers, writers, and directors still know how to tell a compelling story. It's just that now you more than likely won't go to see it in the cinema unless you have a real reason to. And there is another potential factor at play here. Perhaps movies today are, on average, slightly better than they used to be. Sure, the current best may not eclipse the greatest of all time, but the average movie today is probably better than the average movie 25 years ago.
That's probably true.
But because we all have access to a library of all of the greatest movies...
Because we have the examples to follow from and better technology. Yeah. So that's like by default. But core storyline, debatable. Debatable.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, every decade has more of its fair share of average and bad movies.
Fair enough. But like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? I mean, like, God Must Be Crazy. Those are like excellent stories.
Yes, they are.
I don't know.
Ever made. We've become far
more...
Well,
don't have to, at least from what I remember, they don't really have too much like horrible stories. Like really back in the days, like 40s, 50s, 60s.
They have
like,
plenty.
Plenty? Like a lot?
Yes.
I guess they just promote the good stuff.
Well, yeah. Like, that's the whole point he's been making, is that we look back at these eras and we cherry pick the good ones and ignore all the mundane and the bad shit that no one cares about anymore. Remember, we watched Ed Wood. And when was Ed Wood set?
Ed Wood's special. Ed Wood is like a different case.
He's the worst of the worst, but he's far from the only bad filmmaker that was roaming around back then, not knowing what he was doing. Like Roger Corman made a whole living for himself producing bad movie after bad movie. And he did that for decades, from like the 40s to like all the way up to like the 70s.
Make a movie about that guy.
Illiterate, and therefore can't enjoy movies as easily as we used to. If anything, the problem could be that we're spoiled for choice these days. We can watch anything we want, whenever we want.
That's very true.
We're just inundated with so many options that we have to sift through a lot of crap to get to something great. So to say it's the worst era for movies is true in some respects, and false in others. Really what we can say is that the best movies today aren't always as good as the best movies ever made, or the best shows currently on TV. And the most popular movies of this era are mostly unoriginal blockbusters that don't creatively inspire us the way old blockbusters used to.
Yes. Very true.
So a statement like this does capture how we genuinely feel, but in a very incomplete way. Yes, I miss how cinema used to be, the number of original movies being released, and the cultural impact they had. But if you teleported me back to then, with the knowledge I have now, I'd miss the access I have to incredible TV series and online content that currently commands the cultural conversation. But if we truly want to have the best of both worlds, then we need to alter our behavior. We didn't end up here by accident. The internet changed things, streaming services changed things. It made our access to entertainment seamless and often free. But if you love original cinema, then look up your favorite original filmmaker's next movie and pay to go see it. Invite friends. If you can afford it, see it twice. And if you enjoy it, talk about it and recommend it to others. Just like if a tree falls in the woods with no one around to hear it, if a great movie is released and no one bothers to see it or talk about it, then it can't leave behind a cultural impact. The easy thing to do is sit back and complain, but we're a part of this. Movie studios and content creators are not that different. They respond to incentives and what their audience seems to want to see. Not what they claim they want to see, but what the cold hard numbers tell them they want to see. So whenever you go to the movie theater, you're directly communicating with the studio and voting for more. And this year, this is what was voted for. Don't like it? Then show up and vote. A surprising statistic you may not know is that only half the movies released by studios actually make a profit. So if you don't appreciate the current movies coming out of Hollywood, actively stop buying tickets for reboots, remakes, and sequels, and actively start buying tickets to the more original, risky, or high-quality movies coming out.
Hollywood's barely making
those get the best reviews.
They like put in the streaming.
Even if they're
That's
not
what he's saying. He's saying, look away from Hollywood. Look at other shit that's being made. So that way Hollywood will have to respond because the numbers aren't supporting the stuff.
A24, those kind of studios support
projects a shot. This is how we all start steering the industry back in the direction we want it to go. Otherwise, we're all just screaming into the void, hoping someone else will do it for us. So enough of my rambling. What do you think?
It is very informative, well made, quite good stuff.
What do you think?
Like, I think I overall agree with his points. Like, because at the end of the day, the saying Hollywood is dead is, I think it's both true, but it's also is very sensationalist and simple thinking. Because movies themselves aren't dead, the good movies are just somewhere else, and we need to put more effort into looking at them. Because he is right, audiences are responsible for these movies getting made because the numbers do support that's what audiences are going to see. So I can't So while I am mad at the studios for always making these, I also have to be mad at audiences for willingly taking part in this also.
Yeah, but it's like a symbiotic relationship. They keep propelling it, and we keep eating it. Exactly. You know what I mean? But so that's what I'm saying. You have to, as filmmakers, you have to. But you're killing it yourself because when you keep putting out your movies, that's what you're creating. You know what I mean? Because you say, oh, we love. Because Hollywood picks off the dead carcass is what they do. So they realize that making these movies in the open world, so what they do, they abuse it to the point where now they oversaturate their own markets. They do. It's like streaming is elegant, but now we have thousands of different streaming services. Now what's that's doing? That's diluting the streaming game. It is. Same thing. No one's it's the same thing. They're diluting it. It's cool to remake. I'm cool to do open world, sure. But you're oversaturating to the point where now you're making that the status quo. Hollywood is doing it. You know, we'll put whatever you put in our face, but you have to readapt our brains to this is the new norm. This is what we're doing. Get involved in this. Yeah. But if you're just gonna it's like you're just keep riding the wave. Okay, they keep liking this. As long as they keep liking it, we're gonna keep doing it. But guess what? It's starting to slow down. Yeah. How many Marvel movies that usually is the crux of the box office is getting?
Yeah, something needs to change.
That's telling you. That's the point I'm making. That's telling you that even if those movies can be saved, what now?
What now is, we need to do what we did every other time Hollywood started to flop. We look to the indies.
And that's what we're doing. Films. So the audience is doing it. The audience is doing it. It's just that it just takes a little bit more oomph. But it can't come from just us. We're just the consumers. It has to come from the producers. They have to take the risk and put it out there and readjust our brains to this.
Hollywood is still full of A-listers, but the true movie star is dying out. The history of the movies is a history of movie stars. From the heyday of Charlie Chaplin and Marilyn Monroe to George Clooney and Julia Roberts' reign of the 90s, these were the reasons why people came to the movies. They were box office draws in and of
we were talking about the other day, which earlier. They didn't say it earlier in the video.
Yeah,
themselves.
We already said this.
But now, it's not actors that draw people to the cinema, it's properties. The big tentpole releases that get the buzz tend to be ongoing franchises or reboots where the performers feel subservient to the overall product.
There are no movie stars anymore. Like Anthony Mackie isn't a movie star. The Falcon is a movie star.
On the flip,
I would say the Falcon, but I'll say for Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man and
Iron Man is the star.
Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow and
like Chris Hemsworth is a star. Thor is a star.
Yeah, Thor is a star. Yeah, but Chris Hemsworth has developed enough of a personality though to differentiate himself. But yeah, outside of Thor, he has maybe one or two successful movies outside of the Marvel stuff. So yeah.
Side, actors now have more freedom than they did in the past. They're more cautious about becoming typecast and thus more flexible with what they'll star in. Added into that is the fact that the movies aren't the be-all and end-all anymore.
Clooney, Hanks, actor emergency. Tracy Jordan's doing TV again. I know. Disappointing. Take him off the official A-list.
Streaming and TV are both arguably just as prestigious as big screen work, so you see actors covering both grounds in a way they never did in the past. So is the true movie star dying out because the business has changed, or because actors have changed? Here's our take on the movie star and what that means for the future of the audience.
Oh yeah,
I work on the show. Jude.
The conversation around the end of the movie star has been brought into focus over the past couple of years by the actors that seem to be the last of their kind. Tom Cruise just pulled in over $1 billion with Top Gun Maverick, and George Clooney and Julia Roberts' rom-com Ticket to Paradise exceeded expectations. But Brad Pitt's Bullet Train was less of a hit despite it being effectively a star vehicle for one of Hollywood's biggest names.
Not a lot. Not as much as it would have back in the 90s.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Which honestly makes more sense, given that celebrities aren't necessarily what drives a film's success anymore. These big-name movie stars, alongside others like Will Smith, Jennifer Aniston, and Leonardo DiCaprio, emerged in a different cultural landscape, one that was built on the idea of a bankable star. And they were likely still riding the after effects of the studio system that thrived during Hollywood's golden age. Hollywood's rise at the beginning of the 20th century was built on the back of the charisma of their leading men and leading ladies. Actors like Clark Gable, Elizabeth Taylor, and Marilyn and Monroe were contracted to studios for defined lengths of time, taught how to sing and dance, and bestowed with these personas that they would carry into their screen work.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Big persona.
The star system,
I
as it was called.
She died early because I really want to see what her career would have become.
That would have been interesting to see, yeah.
Because I really do like Something Like It Hot.
Yeah, it was a really good one.
I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
That was so entertaining.
It was.
And kind of a real big deal for that time. That really should have been a huge, humongous hit in terms of what's the one where she's like under like a vent and it blows up her skirt? Which movie is that?
I don't even know if that's from a movie or not, or that's something that just happened. I actually don't know.
Oh, but that's definitely Marilyn Monroe though.
Definitely her, yes.
But Gemma's like blondes, not so much.
Yeah, that was alright.
Yeah, that was okay. But Something Like Hot was the tits.
Literally created stars from the ground up.
Yeah.
Rock Hudson, for example, was specifically manufactured into this image of a strong, tough hero for post-war America, named after the Rock of Gibraltar and the Hudson River by his agent Henry Wilson.
We're gonna beef you up, and I don't mean eating hot dogs all day.
Hudson River named after him?
Probably not.
I'm about to say, okay, I want this.
Talking about calisthenics, Charles Atlas kind of stuff. You got a tan every day, quit picking at your
Sheldon doing?
fingernails. We'll get you drama lessons, we'll fix your posture.
By the 60s, the star system had crumbled, but it paved the way for new stars, ones that weren't bound to a studio. The ability of actors to negotiate independent contracts allowed them to break free of typecasting and play a more diverse set of roles. And as these big studios lost their grip on the industry, foreign and indie films flooded in to fill the gap, ushering in a new era for Hollywood. The so-called classic Hollywood movie star was already fading as new and international actors took their place. The 80s and 90s marked the beginning of some of our most prolific actors' careers, and on a purely financial level, these movie stars gained that moniker because of their box office draw. If we look at the actors with the highest average box office during the 90s, Cruise, Smith, and Roberts are all in there.
Welcome to Earth.
But slowly, as franchises, remakes, and sequels started to dominate the landscape, we saw less and less of these megastars break through the noise. Jennifer Lawrence felt like she might be emerging as a bankable star after a series of successes before coming out with a string of flops. And it was likely to do with the movies that she was choosing. She recently revealed that her representatives were steering her away from the interesting independent work she wanted to do because
she was one of the biggest stars of the 2010s and she just kind of faded. Yeah. I really did like No Hard Feelings. I thought that was very underrated.
That was funny.
Very underrated. I told you my boss that I'm working right now, she worked on that one.
Nice.
And Paul worked on that one as well.
Feared her audience wouldn't understand, instead pushing her towards films that were more likely to be box office hits. Timothée Chalamet is another actor who feels like he has star potential, and interestingly enough, Leonardo DiCaprio's career advice to him was no superhero movies.
I'm trying to go where it's not obvious to go.
So it seems that the tides may be changing, and doing what would be considered big movies now is potentially harmful to an actor's career, rather than confirmation of their star status. Matt Damon, who has been very vocal about the demise of the mid-budget film, has said you need those roles to develop as an actor and build your career, and those are gone. Think of the independent, interesting mid-budget movies in the 90s and 2000s that allowed movie stars to play against their type in a way they may not have had the freedom to do in big-budget films. Jim Carrey went against his typical goofball comedies in Peter Weir's The Truman Show, and Michel Gondry's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless
Both
Mind.
great movies.
Adam Sandler was another who, in Paul Thomas Anderson's
That's something
romantic
y'all watch too. That's
comedy
something I've been wanting to watch.
plays someone
Punch Drunk
shy,
Love.
lonely, and crippled by anxiety, a world away from the childish.
He makes a whole bunch of crap, and then he has one of these nuggets. I'm like, okay, he's pretty good.
You look nervous.
So it shows he's capable of doing the movies. He just chooses not to.
Filled with an assortment of mid-budget movies, classics like Home Alone, dramas like Shawshank Redemption, horrors like Scream, or romantic comedies like Sleepless in Seattle. And they
if
were
it's about impact, Home Alone has to be like my top 5. If you're just talking straight up impact.
able to reliably
Come on,
make a
Home Alone's
profit upon
cool.
release.
He
Now
fucks
that
those
studios are
fucking
going for
Joe
big
Pesci,
risk,
my God.
big reward, mid-budget films are often not marketed well or are shuffled off to get lost.
Yes,
in the
my
summer.
God.
Just look at Knives Out, a huge mid-budget hit, which, despite its success, had its sequel head to Netflix after only a week in theaters.
A twisted
Craziness.
web. And we are not finished untangling it, not yet.
Streaming has also eaten into the potential profits these mid-budget movies can make by effectively killing off the DVD market. Matt Damon, Hollywood's de facto spokesperson on this topic, spoke up once again in his recent appearance on Hot Ones. He lamented over how difficult it would be to make something like Behind the Candelabra now, given how niche the story is, and how all the financial pressure of it is put on a film's theatrical release.
You could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater, because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release.
So now, TV and streaming have almost replaced these mid-budget movies in terms of the kinds of roles actors can play. Neil Iyer of Independent Magazine says, if Hollywood of old existed in 2022, MGM would release a movie about a young restaurateur trying to keep his debt-riddled family business afloat, creating a realistic portrait of foodie culture while examining themes of addiction and masculinity. Instead, we have Hulu series The Bear. Huge stars like Nicole Kidman have admitted to seeing TV acting as increasingly lucrative, while Ewan McGregor speaks to liking television acting more. And Matthew McConaughey's so-called McConescence was propelled as much, if not more, by his dark, complex turn in HBO's True Detective as it was by his film roles of the same period.
Nature created an aspect of nature separate from itself. We are creatures that should not exist by natural law.
So there's been a marked shift in the perception of what TV could be in this new streaming age.
Yeah, streaming is comic movie quality
makes it harder
shows.
for us to determine a
So
star's
they're just like the
influence
typical
or
formulaic
worth. There's
format.
not just a
That's the
handful of
point she's
stars on
making.
the silver
Yeah.
screen. There's now a
No, I agree
deluge
with
of
the point.
stars across all of our movies and TV shows on so many different
I
platforms.
say this is more of a
it can feel
renaissance
hard
of
to keep up
television
with.
more than it
And
is for movies.
success on
Yeah,
streaming
both this
is
and the
harder to
previous video have been
decipher than
saying
an
that.
objective box office hit, since they
That's why
provide
movie
us
stars
with
are doing
unconventional
shows now,
metrics like
which is the
app
tragic.
signups
Movie
or
stars should be
social
movie
media
stars.
mentions.
We're canceling the show. The algorithm felt it wasn't hitting the right taste clusters.
Speaking of, today it's
Taste clusters,
expected for
ew.
stars to have some kind of social media presence, not only to keep them closer to their audiences,
Rock
but
has probably
also,
the
no
most
doubt, to keep up
Instagram
against
followers
the
in
rise of online
Instagram
content
period.
creators making their way
Like
into the
350 million.
mainstream. Studies
Some
have
wild
shown that
number.
younger generations, digital natives who were raised on social media, are more likely to name an online celebrity as their favorite famous person and are more likely to listen to influencers or vloggers than Hollywood stars.
You can learn so many makeup trends and techniques on her channel.
So yes, movie stars need to somewhat match pace with these new kinds of stars, but this increased social media presence also eats into their mystery, the mystique they once held. Critic Ty Burr wrote in Gods Like Us, his 2012 history of movie stardom, that the internet brought a marked devaluation of the traditional movie star. It likely affects their ticket sales too. Fandango producer Brian Formo says, you can be fans of movie stars now without having to watch their movies, but follow their social posts or engage with stan accounts. So while stars keep up their Instagram feed and flip back and forth between film, TV, and streaming, it may look like a more creatively diverse industry, but it actually reveals what's lacking in the film industry and why people who may have once cemented themselves as film stars are more likely to move away from the medium. Amazon recently paid $465 million for its production of Lord of the Rings spin-off show Rings
Insanity.
of Power, with no stars attached to it, further cementing the idea that the star is no longer the priority, it's the franchise
Well, a
itself.
franchise like
there
that,
are still
yes,
A-list
of
actors,
course, no one gives a shit
but
about
it
that.
doesn't feel like they're the ones people are paying to see, and sometimes
Yeah, no
it even
shit.
feels like they're indistinguishable from one another.
I look just like him, but I'm not that Chris. Not Pratt or Hemsworth, I'm a different guy.
While these franchises are undeniably entertaining, often brilliantly made films, it does feel like they can swallow up actors and prevent them from realizing their full potential.
Hey, yo.
Jennifer Aniston argued that Marvel's dominance was contributing to a general decline in quality of what's out there in the movie industry. Martin Scorsese's comments on superhero movies notoriously started a years-long debate, but he brought up the very real issue that today's films lack a certain element of risk-taking that cinema once had, saying they're market-researched, audience-tested, vetted, modified, re-vetted, and remodified until they're ready for consumption. And Elizabeth Olsen recently said that her commitments to the MCU took her away from the physical ability to do certain jobs that she thought were more aligned with the things she enjoyed as an audience member. While the MCU has made household names of its cast, there's no guarantee these actors will bring the audience with them to other work. Chris Hemsworth Men in Black reboot didn't really catch on, and The
Did
Gray
not.
Man, which brought Chris Evans back with MCU directors the Russo brothers, was critically panned and quickly faded into the background on Netflix. Ironically, many Marvel stars have struggled to make it outside the franchise.
True
Although
that.
they may enjoy the freedom of taking
Scarlett
roles that
Robin Downey
align
had a
more
little
with
bit
their
of success
career
early on,
prospects,
but
there's no doubt
yeah,
they
time went
suffer a
on.
dip in pay and notoriety. If stardom does exist now, it seems to happen outside of the movies. Harry Styles is one of the biggest stars in the world off the back of his music career, and is now being fast-tracked onto the big screen as producers aim to harness that star power. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is probably the most classical movie star around right now, someone with a defined role
Even
who
he
feels
faded.
like a box office draw, but his acting persona emerged out of his pre-existing wrestling character.
If you smell what The Rock is
cooking.
Even someone like Zendaya, who is a part of the MCU stable, is a multi-hyphenate. Her star power isn't solely defined by her role as MJ.
Nope.
Her status as a style icon, her music career, and her role in Euphoria are all equally, if not more, important. So maybe it's not that there aren't movie stars, it's that the movies don't create stars the way they used to, or don't allow stars the space they once did to shine. We lament the loss of the movie star because it feels like it represents an overall decline in the importance of the movies. In a recent Allure interview, Jennifer Aniston made this link, saying, "There are no more movie stars. There's no more glamour. Even the Oscar parties used to be so fun."
Movies are a little bit more like up here and maybe more not as accessible.
But rather than a decline, maybe it's better to think about this as a period of transition, where cinema isn't the dominant form, and where streaming, TV, film, and maybe in the future virtual reality all jostle for space together. Stephen Galloway of The Hollywood Reporter says, without developing character pieces, they won't develop more stars. Which is true, but the good news is that many of our new streaming shows are doing just that. As this new landscape begins to take shape, new stars will emerge, and maybe they won't burn as brightly as the classic Hollywood star once did, but there will certainly be more of them.
The kind is headed for extinction.
Maybe so, sir, but not today.
But that's kind of the problem. People come in the industry to become a superstar, to get attention on them. That's a big problem.
Yeah, well, here's like here's you raising the point, like stars aren't coming from movies, stars are coming from streaming platforms or pre-existing careers.
Social media.
Yes, social media, big part of that.
Yeah, so you can still be famous, just won't be in the way you do. So it's changing for the first time because it was always like that. We always had movie stars from the dawn of fucking silent era.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we're really in all of the film industry that we're officially changing from that.
Yeah, we're transitioning into a whole new industry, which a new industry needs to emerge in order to keep up with all these other industries, like the internet and internet and streaming. Like the way movies work isn't compatible with all that.
Being an influencer, making funny videos.
Yeah. So now modern day high profile actors have to compete with all that. It's not just about being the star anymore, because movies aren't in their own bubble anymore. Now everything's all more interconnected, so you have a lot more competition. So it's a lot harder to be a star.
How do you feel about that, though?
I mean, if that was it, the thing is, like, the death of the movie star, really, I find it a little disappointing, mostly because it obviously shows a lesser income for the people who make movies. But that's the only real issue I have with that specifically, because a lot of my bigger concerns are more just creative side, like, hey, you're doing this, and this because it makes you because you think it's going to make you more money, even though it's probably not going to be long term. It's making your movies less creative. I think it's like, I never got super attached to actors the way a lot of people do, so I don't mind so much like if we don't have. I don't mind so much if we have a less movie stars, as long as we have more actors getting the roles that they'll be really good at. Yeah. That matters to me a lot more than whether or not the actor's really famous.
Yeah, if you're talking personal, like I think we think the same. Like it's like Paul, because we're different. We're from like the, I guess, under the film zeitgeist. Like I'm a filmmaker. I also work in the industry, so I've watched films from my life. So I don't need to be marketed and promoted to see a movie. I'm going to movies anyways.
Yeah.
Same thing like you. Same thing like other people I know.
We're not the people that the advertisings are targeting.
We wouldn't care on movies in general. Yeah. But as a businessman, as a studio, as a regular normal moviegoer, the movie star is integral, because that's what's going to draw people to the theaters. Yeah. People want to idolize something. People want to be like something. So like that's part of the art, because like you go see a movie star, but then you've seen a whole different movie. I mean, you've seen a movie, you've seen a different kind of movie. You're seeing different kinds of movies because of this person is in it. So it's like that's kind of like that's a big problem. So if now I'm switching this to IP, then people are just gonna come and see the same thing essentially. Yes. Because they're paying for something that already has a built-in audience. Yeah. They're already familiar with. So there's no experimentation there. No way to really go.
We need to find something else to get people into seats. Because just having to be able about property is only going to get you so far, and having to be able, but the actor isn't sustainable anymore in this new environment where actors have to compete with all other celebrities in the same space. So we need to find something else. Like, I wish I had an answer that would be nice and easy, but unfortunately life doesn't always have late season answers, and even then, I'm probably not the person to come up with that answer anyways, quite frankly. But hopefully an answer will come. Someone smart enough will actually come up with it, and the industry can successfully adapt to this new climate of content that's being made.
Yeah, it is that the movie industry has to now to adjust to this incoming tsunami that is in their culture, which they kind of did. So like, we need more Barbenheimers. We need more Dune. We need more of those because that's the new.
Yeah, because that's exactly like. That's the closest solution that we can really produce now is just invest more into your social media marketing. Well, morally marketing in general, because a lot of these movies are either marketed really badly or under-marketed in general. Yep. Sometimes both even. Yep. Because that is the biggest thing killing Hollywood, even more so than the death of the movie star, I feel like Hollywood could survive the death of the movie star if they got the rest of their shit together. But the fact that they don't have the rest of their shit together, then all of a sudden this problem escalates. Now it's a much bigger problem because we had this thing that supported the industry for so long, and now we're just kind of putting all of our eggs in that one basket. But really, it's a more systemic problem. We need corporations to step up, know how to advertise the things that needs to get advertised, and generally just be willing to take more risks. The way that A24 is willing to take risks.
Yeah, you have to become the new A24.
Yeah, you need to adapt to what everyone else is doing.
You gotta be willing to like anything. When you become rich, you have to be willing to lose money. Yeah, you gotta be willing to sacrifice money. It's the only way you really see returns. You know what I mean? You have to get like that. You're gonna have to be able to take some risks. You cannot keep going for the safe option, the path of least resistance. That's not gonna yield any real fruit. You're gonna make money for a little bit, but what about 30 years from now?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But that's the problem, is that the way American corporate culture works is that a lot of these people aren't going to be in the same companies for that long. They're going to be jumping from place to place, most of them. So they're not so worried about the long term because I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be here to deal with the consequences. I'm here to make all the money now.
Yeah.
And that's leading to this. My mindset is leading
and that's what led to the 2008 housing crisis.
Exactly.
That kind of mentality.
It is. It's an awful mentality that really hurts all companies, really hurts every corporation that has that mentality. They'll hurt from it long term. And it just hurts everyone because it makes the economy worse. It makes everything worse. It makes all the things being made worse. Like, we just really need to be more willing to we just really need to just be willing to take more risks. We can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. We can't stick our head in the sand and pretend that it's still the 90s. We have to try new things, get people in the seats, and whatever that ends up being, I hope it's better than this.
Agreed. Yeah. Basically, essentially, yeah. You have to take risks. You have to go for broke, and you need to change the system. You have to change the way the game is being played. You have to stop trying to exploit things that stop trying to pick the carcass apart and call it a different animal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's time to spread your wings a little bit, Hollywood.
Yeah.
And be willing to lose some money to make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what I can say. You guys have to figure it out because you guys are in it, but that's like the best advice I can give.
Yeah.
Because you do have a problem. And you have some wins, but as I said, it's a long-term problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you have to think long-term about. You can't just be like, hey, I'm just going to keep you, like, for example, spending $1 billion for Disney to buy properties. You're buying properties that's already pretty much been used up for decades.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it for the next 20, 30 years? I mean...
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The reason why you have all those properties beforehand is because people took risks to make those properties exist.
Exactly. So instead of taking what existing properties, create your new properties, and that's what we need.
Create your new properties, but your advertising into it, have faith in those properties to do well, and then people will start to wake up a bit and like, hey, maybe this is worth seeing. Maybe they won't even see it the first go around, and maybe they'll watch the sequel or another movie made by the same production company, like how a lot of people didn't go to see Batman Begins, but they saw it later and like, oh wow, this is better than this really lives up to the hype, this is better than I thought it'd be, and they went to go see The Dark Knight when that released.
Yep. And that's exactly it. And the next one made just even more money.
Yes, it did. That's what happens when you're making good stuff. Then the audience will have faith in your ability to keep making that good stuff. So it's okay if you make some flops before.
That was a huge risk.
Yeah.
That isn't a flop. It didn't make nowhere near as much as it should have been, or of course, the second one did.
Yes.
But it was good enough to the point people was like, okay, next one come out, I'm gonna give it a look.
Exactly. That's how you build faith in your audience. Exactly. That's how you're going to win people back, and people are going to come out and see more movies.
Make good movies, and you never know. Yeah. It could lead to something.
Make more movies, actually market them well, and people will go to see it.
Exactly.
That's it. That is the best option. That's the best answer we have for you right now, Hollywood. But yeah, maybe there's more things you can do than we're just not thinking about it. I hope so. I hope someone comes up with an even better solution that'll work. Ideally, something that'll work immediately, but good solutions usually don't work that immediately. But with that being said, I think we've reached everything we wanted to say. I don't think we need to say anything else.
I agree.
Okay, so I guess that's the conclusion of the first official recurring podcast. Yeah, I think this has been a good conversation. I think we've gone through a lot. We've consulted a lot of videos that we will show. Well, we're obviously not showing the entirety of these for all of you, but all the descriptions for all the links to these will be in our video description.
I was about to tell you that too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it'd be very unfair to show these and not actually credit the people who actually posted these up. I wouldn't be super comfortable with that. But with that being said, folks, I've had a good time here tonight. Please make sure whatever thoughts you have on the subject, feel free to let them down in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button, and we catch you next time for some more podcasty hijinks.